Carson,
Yeah, I'm down for.
yeah, which is in Edmonton. Good is.
Can you hear us, Councillor Good?
Is sick.
Yes, I can, sort of garbled, but yes.
Okay, I'll call the regular council meeting of September 5th to order at 5 p.m. And we have some announcements and introductions to start our evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before today's agenda is adopted, I just want to take this opportunity to introduce to you Pat Fisher, who, having accepted the Director of Engineering and Infrastructure position, joined the town on September 6th. A designated PN, Pat brings significant knowledge and experience in water treatment, wastewater treatment systems, much needed bench strength for us over the next number of years as we work towards upgrading the wastewater treatment plant. Aside from his apparent easy nature, Pat brings with him municipal engineering experience, having worked as a private consulting engineer and a municipally employed engineer. Having a couple of weeks in the organization, we already appreciate him being part of the senior leadership team, and we're happy to have him join us. And certainly will quickly come to value his contributions to the agenda as much as we already value having his perspective on engineering and infrastructure related matters. So welcome, Pat, to your first council meeting. Thank you.
There's only 3 of us, as a round of applause.
We've got 2 counselors on virtual from someplace and 3 of us sitting here. So welcome. And we'll get started. We've got the agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions?
And so, your worship.
Okay. Are you sure there's none? Okay. Okay, would someone please move the agenda as adopted or as presented? I'll move that. Thank you. Councillor Shannon. Okay, Councillor Shannon so moves, and if those who are virtual, if you could say yes or no at times, I think. Or no, maybe just raise your hands if that's.
Mark's cameras.
Except Mark, your camera's off.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so all those in favor of that motion, first of all. Okay,
I am.
thank you. Okay, thank you. It is carried. We have the minutes of September 11th. You've had a chance to review them. Are there any amendments to those minutes? Any edits? Someone care to move the adoption of the minutes of September 11th?
I'll move the council adopt the minutes of the September 11th, 2022 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor?
in favor.
It is carried. Public hearings, we don't have any, but we have a presentation from Alberta Health Services with Lynn Gadosh, site manager, and Sandra Harrod, senior operating officer. And you both want to come forward to the table there, and you just turn on the microphone by pressing the button and leaving it red. And start whenever you're ready. Well, welcome.
Thank you for having us. I don't think we have a formal presentation per se. We did bring some information that we can leave with you when we're done today, but it's kind of an opportunity, an invitation. So thank you for that, to come and answer any questions and share any information that you wish us to share with regards to, I know there's some concerns around bed closures and recruitment, retention, the utilization of agency staff. We have a locum program as well that we're utilizing. And so I think it's just an opportunity to share, and we can start with providing information. Or do you have anything specific that you want to learn about today from us?
Well, I don't know, some of the topics you mentioned would be part of my topics, I think.
Okay.
Anybody else, something different than was mentioned at this point? Looks like we can carry on.
All right, sounds good. Do you want to start or you not? Okay, so I can speak first to the number of nursing positions, our vacancy rate at the facility, and, right now we have 43% vacancy rate for RN positions, and we have a 37% vacancy rate for LPNs. And so our normal, staff, including part-time, casual, and full-time, we have 5 full-time, vacant staff for RNs and 5 part-time staff vacant. We have 4 full-time vacant LPNs and 1 part-time vacant, LPN. Casual staff are hired on a continuous basis, as needs exist and as they continue to exist, obviously, for our facility. In the emergency department as well, we have 2 part-time RNs vacant and 1 full-time LPN vacant and 1 part-time LPN vacant. So as you can tell, we are in dire straits when it comes to our staffing. We are utilizing contracted agency staff at the site as we need them, and unfortunately, we have needed them. There's been a number of questions around how much does it cost for us when it comes to utilizing agency. The cost is high. We don't have the hourly rate as to what we pay the agency staff. That is determined by their agency, and they basically give us an amount that we have to pay. We also pay for their accommodations and their travel, and then any per diem amounts that are identified as part of the contract as well for these agency staff. We do have an RN locum program that we utilize within the zone. What's good about the RN locum program is that they're actually AHS staff. And so we hire them as AHS, and then they can go and travel throughout the different communities and facilities and work as a locum. It helps us mitigate some of the costs related to having agencies come on instead of our own staff. That way we can train them, we can provide our own education, and we have a model of care that we can utilize these nurses in a more effective and efficient manner. We are successful in recruiting to the locum program, which is a mixed blessing, because while we'd like to have more on-site local staff being hired, we do have to lean on the local programs. We are seeing some staff that are going to the local program versus coming to the sites to work as a regular in-house staff, essentially. Not a lot we can do about that at this point. We do have active recruitment efforts underway, both domestic and international recruits. Lynn has a meeting coming up this week to talk about international educated nurses so that we can get more boots on the ground. That will take time. Currently, our health professions and strategies team is pairing international nurses with our sites. And so we have to determine what that looks like in the months to come. But we probably are looking at 6 to 9 months before we have that stability and have the IENs landing on the ground. What's great about the international educated nursing program right now is that we have some people who have come from other countries, whether it's the Philippines or India, for example, who have come here as registered nurses, but have not been able to get the requirements and do their exams to work as an RN. And so we've made some headway in opening up the avenues for them to get their credentialing, do their NCLEX exam. And I was in Fox Creek and Valley View a couple of weeks ago doing site tours, and we already have the domestic IENs on the floors working in those 2 sites. And so we are seeing some of that success. So hopefully we're seeing some of that generate in Peace River area as well. And because I know of some personally that have come into RNs and, you know, maybe LPNs that can actually work on the ground over the course of time. So it is a process. It's not a quick fix. It's a more of a long-term plan versus a short-term immediate plan. So staffing is a real struggle for us. You know, we continue to post all of our positions. We get a multitude of people applying on different positions, but again, we in Peace River are a hub site, so we offer specialized services by way of labor delivery, surgical services, medicine, emergency services and whatnot. So we just can't take any one person that applies on a position, so we have to keep that in mind. And people who do apply on positions are applying on a number of positions at once, and so we might offer a position, they may take it somewhere else. And so, and oftentimes places like Peace River is a jump off site for other facilities who need staff, like in Edmonton, Calgary, Grand Prairie, and they want to go to the regional centers or the urban centers versus rural care. And we still consider ourselves a rural facility in Peace River. Any questions so far with regards to the information about the staffing?
So if you have 43% vacancy rate, basically you're half staffed.
Yes.
And it's gonna come up the acute care beds that are closed. I think we just got another message today saying that's now until January 2024, I think it was. So what would it take in staffing to have those beds open? Saying that all this other, you know, just those 10 beds, what would it take?
It would
Or that's
take,
part of this vacancy.
yeah, I mean, that's the struggle because I think you can feel free to chime in. That's part of the struggle because right now we can get enough contracted nurses and local nurses to come to the site. But the instability is there because they're not coming and staying for extended periods of time. So we might be close to fully staffed for a couple of weeks and then we'll see it drop again. So opening and closing the beds is difficult. And because we want to sustain certain services like labor delivery, because we don't want moms and babes to have to travel to Grand Prairie or to Edmonton, we want to keep those services as local as possible and the surgical services. So if we can get more staff, we would support the staff to focus more on labor and delivery versus operating the 10 beds. So we keep those 10 beds closed. So we can focus on the hub site services. Now, we haven't seen any, I don't think in a lot of labor delivery nurses either, and that becomes a struggle for us, which then it is more important for us to get more support in those areas versus those 10 beds. And so, and if we find ourselves recruiting more and we are able to sustain those staffing over a period of time, we will open those beds eventually. We have opened them softly as well. We just haven't announced it because again, it's those ebbs and flows that we experience. So, you know, we may say we have 20 beds operational, but we will go that 23, 24 on occasion if we need to. So we do see those open beds from time to time. Yeah.
So over what time period have you noticed this, like how long has this been happening? Is it just since COVID or is this prior to COVID or is this strictly a COVID follow?
COVID has done a number on our system. And it's not just Peace River, it's everywhere. And it's Peace River, it's Alberta, it's Canada, it's international. I wish I could put my finger on it and say what the issue is, but it's been a struggle that we're all experiencing. It's system wide and it's not just health, it's corrections. It seems to be right across the board when it comes to recruitment and retention of staff.
And do you see then a need for more people to be going to getting their nursing degree then? Is that? And I do see a lot of them through the, I sit on the NADC board and a lot of the bursaries come through there and there seems to be a lot coming through. So, but just not enough. Is that what you're?
Not enough and the interest to come
North.
to the north to work, right? And that's the other part of it. And so, you know, I think when we look at working with high schools, working with colleges, universities to really kind of look at what is the need and also looking at our skill mix in our sites as well. And that's another thing that we're getting underway is what is the actual skill mix that we need for a site? You know, do we need more RNs? Do we need more LPNs? Do we need a better blend of the two? What does that look like for us? Introducing healthcare aides into the healthcare system as well, right? To support the day-to-day care that patients need and utilizing the RNs and LPNs in a different manner. And I think, you know, we've moved away from the diploma program into the degree program, which takes a longer time to graduate people. And is that having an impact? So there's so many considerations, I think, we have to think of it from a system perspective. And And how do we get to that point where we can actually say, okay? And I think it's gonna be cyclical. I mean, I remember when I graduated, as an example, almost 30 years ago, when I didn't get a job to save my life in Newfoundland, so I came here and I got casual for a bit, and then was hired on full time. But it was, it comes in ebbs and flows, and I think it gets to the point where the jobs are very plentiful and then they're very scarce, and I think that rolls over
Yeah, and
5 10
I
years.
think sometimes too, our system of, the way we educate and have, what do you call it, positions in the education system, because at times in the past, there's been, okay, we don't need as many nurses, let's cut the number that can enter nursing as a profession, and then we pay for that between 25 years in the future. And I kind of think that's one of the things we're facing here now, because wasn't it in the 90s that Alberta said, oh, well, we don't need to graduate as many nurses, and we pay for it eventually.
And here we are, right?
Yeah.
And more people are going to retire, and we don't have as many coming into the
Yeah.
system, so it becomes very cyclical,
Yeah.
and that's tough.
Counselor Good, Counselor Boychuk, do you have any questions at this point? Looks like they're okay. I have one more.
So.
I'm good at this moment, thank you.
Sorry, if you're that short-staffed or that under your normal levels, is there extra stress put on the staff that is there? Like, is it harder for them then? Like, is it having a direct effect on the staff, the current staff?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's exhausting because when you go from having 3 or 4 obstetrically trained nurses on a unit on any given day down to the bare minimum of 2, it's very stressful. The ongoing, I mean, we have agency nurses and local nurses coming through, but that takes orientation. So some of these people come and some people have a great idea of how to work in a multi-system unit like we have med surg and obstetrics, and some do not. So they are constantly orientating and monitoring the new staff that come through, which is exhausting. And on top of that, now that the schools are back and open, we have student LPNs coming through. We are getting our unis back. We are getting our RNs from Grand Prairie and Edmonton, the student nurses, support the student nurses and stuff. So it is exhausting. It is tiring for sure. And unfortunately for us, our fortunate, I guess, for us, the number of births that we had in the last few years has gone down a little bit from about the 400 mark to about the 300 to 350 mark. But babies don't wait for anybody, and neither do heart attacks or strokes. So, the work is still there, but it's just at a different level of tension, I guess. Say on some shifts, it can be pretty tiring. One of the positive things that I do think is good is we have a very strong core of nurses right now. There were people that had chose to see if the grass was greener on the other side, and sometimes a change is necessary. Like COVID was very hard on a lot of people, so some people chose to try other areas. But sometimes the feedback is it's no different anywhere we go. It's just the same stuff's going on.
Those are crazy numbers.
Yes, yeah, and I think that if I had a wish or an ask, I would ask to be invited to different forums. Clear there's, not we, the team collectively, to be invited to that local recruitment opportunities and, any career conversations about recruitment and how to get more people into schools and into this area. And we always, the motto is you recruit people to live, to not just to work. And I think look at what the community has to offer, being able to have some support around embracing those recruits and what we can do as a community at large to integrate them into the community. I remember several years ago when we recruited Carla Pittman. There was a welcome wagon, and when we got here, it was introducing to the realty, to the schools, to the churches, to, what the community had to offer as a whole. And they've been here for 20+ years, I think, at this point. And so things like that.
I think part of that, like I'm on the healthcare adoption retention committee, and sometimes it feels that it's very hard to figure out is there a new person here that we can attack to stay, basically?
And we can help you, but
You know, okay, well, that's good to know.
I think part of it too is we have a different culture in the generations coming up, because a lot of people, like, some of these new staff are like, I don't want to work nights for the rest of my life. So I think we need to, as we talked about with Tanya here earlier, we need to stress that there is nights in some of this, but that's not all you ever do. And there's a lot of opportunities in nursing in a hospital that are just not days and nights shift work. There are many, many jobs in the area, physicians and nurses. That doesn't always include that kind of shift work. So sometimes you pay your dues and do a few nights, know what it's like, and you have the empathy, and then you go on. So it's something to.
Well,
dispel those myths.
Yeah, I think the healthcare committee, I think we're going to be applying for, I think it's a high school, you know, those lab sessions. There was one in Grimshaw here this last year, similar to that, but for our site, so we'll be talking.
And we did that in 2017 or 16, we did that, yeah,
Yeah,
that's very good.
and you hope you get at least one out of it.
yeah, one is
Now
a
or in the
success.
future, but it's one more, so, yeah.
Yeah, and we have a lot of information in here, and we're going to leave it with regards to recruitment, retention, some of the work that we have underway provincially around the recruitment. We have a task force, you know, with our health professionals strategies. We have a retention task force as well, because we can do a great job of trying to recruit, but we also have to think about how do we retain people, right? And that's a big part of what we need to focus on as well. So, yeah, we have a lot underway, provincially around that recruitment and retention. Our path is another great resource. In Hinton, it was last year in the fall, we did a pilot where we had a preceptorship program. And so there was, I think, 6 students that came from the U of A that went to Hinton to do a preceptorship. And then we also had another 3 or 4 students that went to Edson as part of a second-year nursing program where they were getting their education and they were getting a taste of that rural facility. And we're hoping that that's going to be scaled and spread across other sites. And so I did identify Peace River and another site as maybe an opportunity going forward if that comes to fruition. And so that's a consideration as well. I mean, I feel like I have a bias because I live in Peace River, but I have to be cognizant that I have another 16 facilities that I oversee as well. And so it becomes very challenging to focus only on one site, but yeah, it's home.
And there's no problem, with other staff such as, I don't know, maintenance staff, whatever people are called these days, those jobs.
I'll let you speak to that.
It varies, it does, it has its peaks and valleys too. Actually, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, speech language pathologists, we're short on all of those things, right? Even dietary, kitchen staff, food services, they struggle because I mean, that's 4 a.m. or something to get up and, you know, get breakfast going. So there is struggles throughout the facility for sure. Environmental services also has issues. That is now a 24/7 job as well. So that housekeeping staff is vital. I mean, these are the people that, bless their souls, kept us safe during COVID because they cleaned like nobody's ever cleaned before. But they struggle with staffing as well. They do.
And do they work 8-hour shifts, 12 hours, or is there some?
8s, usually
Eights,
environmental services is 8s, facilities and maintenance is 8s. Occupational therapists, respiratory, those are 8-hour shifts. OTPT, speech language, yeah.
Okay, any other questions, counselors?
When you mentioned your numbers of nurses that are missing, you gave some numbers for those are acute care nurses and then some other emergency nurses. These are different positions.
Correct. 2 different departments, so. the
Okay,
first-
so
the
you have
first
to add them all
was
together,
acute
to
care.
figure exactly all the nurses were short, and it's worse than it sounded.
No, it's not.
Okay,
So when you see the form, you'll see that the
Okay.
acute care staff were 5 RNs full-time vacant and 5 part-time.
Okay.
And emerge RN are 2 part-time, which by the way, I have just about hired into, which is better. So the total amount is 11.29
okay,
for that area. I don't have any vacancies in the OR that I need to worry about right now.
And those are the ones, but as you say, that's where you're moving your staff to make sure that those core services stay okay.
Yeah.
I think there was also a question that was asked about mammography. We do have some new equipment for mammography, and so it's a new digital equipment, so there's no wait time for the download of the images and no running back and forth. So I think it's the latest and greatest when it comes to technology. They're going through the quality assurance and the training piece right now, but hoping to have it fully operational within the next, I want to say, couple of weeks. And so just getting
That's
the
good
training
news.
on those.
Yeah,
Yes, very good
it
news,
was
very
about
good
time.
news. Yeah.
Yeah, because I understood our previous machine was on its last legs, and we were the last in Alberta to get this new one. So
It's here, it's landed.
great,
It's installed.
good.
Yep, and also around the cancer clinic staffing, and so the position still remains posted for the cancer clinic. But Lynn was able to arrange coverage, and so we have the services being offered in Peace River so that patients don't have to travel to Grand Prairie or Edmonton for cancer treatments that they can get in Peace River. So just want to share that as well. And I think we can leave it there. We've probably taken up more than our
Okay.
time, and I apologize for that, but
So on another, not the human resources aspect, but the building aspect, is there anything that's upcoming with the building per se that, well, you need a whole new?
we've got the MDR project that's getting
Which is-
underway, the medical device processing unit in the facility. So that's getting major upgrades, multi-million-dollar upgrades. So we're very excited about that. Because that requires some new technology and some new infrastructure, and so that's being done. Outside of that, FME kind of, they have their own projects within the facility with regards to wall repair, painting, flooring, and things like that. I think the palliative care room was just done recently in Peace River, and so that is complete. Outside of that, I don't think there's anything planned. I think Lynn may have something she wants to bring forward.
The new chillers in our air conditioner was a loaner, because that messed up when it was 40 degrees a few years ago, right? So that was a very interesting summer. But now the new chiller is installed as well. And yes, MDR will be a big project and it won't be starting till next year, but it's going to be quite an undertaking.
And MDR is.
Medical device reprocessing, central.
Oh, that's where
the
the
sterilization.
sterilization.
So a year or so ago, the government announced a few million.
4 million, yeah, and now I think it's gonna be a few months out yet before they start, but that's where all of our sterilization occurs for the OR, for the emerge, for Q and whatnot, so it's our central sterilization center.
Wow. Lots of little pieces to make the whole, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Well,
The other part of that too is we're trying to increase surgeries in Peace River. We're trying to bring more surgeries here. So we do fall under the ASI, the Alberta Surgical Initiative. And we have surgeons here that are capable of doing surgery, but our wait lists are just not big enough. So a lot of times people think, oh, I'm just gonna go to Grand Prairie because it costs all that stuff. So a lot of times those wait lists in larger centers become big, whereas we can do a lot of things here. So we're trying to get on to what they call the FAST program as well, which is a surgical referral. So basically, if you're in Edmonton or Calgary or Red Deer or wherever, and you want to have your hernia fixed, instead of waiting 6 months for Edmonton or 2 years for your hip, perhaps you could go to a ASI site like I think Westlaw, Hinton has started up now, and a few of these other ORs, and the wait list goes down and your surgery is now here. That makes sense. So we've got to get people to start coming out rural instead of everyone going into the urban.
And right now we have a gynecologist that's coming and doing gynae surgeries. So
We have 2 surgeons right now, one doing laparoscopic surgery, like pulling gallbladders and things, and the other one doing gynecological. Monday. So.
Maybe we start a medical tourism thing.
The only other, if you bring up the topic of anything that we could maybe do some renovations on, I know our facilities and maintenance do a lot of the grounds work, and there's been an ask from the physicians from the
the medical clinic, there's a portion of the sidewalk on the west side. On the town property that is not completed, about 50 feet. And they're asking the town would come and put in the sidewalk on your property. We
Well,
did-
we'll note that for sure.
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
We did put in, for garden court, we did have some people coming over for dialysis and treatments and stuff, so we did put in that wheelchair access because a few years ago they were getting stuck in the parking lot. So we did put that in, we just need a little bit of cement. Thank you.
Well, yeah, who knows? Who knows if the town has some extra money sometime, maybe. But thank you, ladies. It's been very informative, and I'm sure your documents will add to it.
No, we have about 5. Do you want all of them left or?
Yeah, yes, please. I hope that somehow that surgery initiative that you mentioned, that would be great. But people here too need to say, well, can I get it done in Peace River?
Exactly.
Because I know I've had procedures where it's assumed in Edmonton that Grand Prairie is the place to be. And you find out, well, no, Peace River has that, whatever it was, sort of thing. So stuff like that, we need to, like help you somehow, advertise, I guess.
Yes, thank you.
We did send out the physicians, the medical affairs has sent out to all the local physicians, reminding them of all the surgeries that can be done here so that people aren't being referred to Edmonton or Grand Prairie. And so the nudge has been put out there.
So is that something that we could have a copy of, or is it a internal kind of?
I can get you some information on ASI for sure, and share it with, I can send it to you directly or to Kayla maybe and
Sure.
have it shared. I think that once we get all of the physicians on the FAST, so it's referral program.
Yeah.
And we do have our navigators that, go in and intercept the referrals and then can distribute them to wherever they need to go, to make sure that we're shortening up any wait lists for people awaiting any surgeries. As long as we're offering the surgery in Peace River, then we should be able to make it possible. And we
Sounds
have
good.
met our targets.
Yeah,
We're doing really well with our targets for the surgical initiative, and so, yeah, we've done very well in Peace River so far.
well, that's good to hear, and thanks for all your work on that as well. Counselors Good and Boychuk, do you have any questions? One, no.
I'm good at the moment.
Okay, one comment.
I just want to say, I remember when the chamber used to be involved. Because I remember holding a dinner and chairing a dinner or whatever, when we brought a couple doctors to town, and that has to be. I can't remember the doctor, but they had really curly hair, I remember.
Dr. Unger, maybe?
Yeah, it could be. Anyway, so maybe we need to start getting back to that. So I can connect with you offline anytime if you know of anybody coming. And through our economic development committee and chamber of commerce, we could maybe put up something together for that.
Yeah, even an annual event for all of our healthcare.
Oh, that
right,
thing.
that comes to town. But, yeah,
Okay,
for
thank
sure. We'd be happy to do that. All right, thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank
Take care, guys.
Okay, our next item is bylaws, of which we have none to talk about. Unfinished business, none, but new business. So first one, grants to organizations, Director Bell.
Thank you, your worship and council and virtual counselors. This report this evening is in regards to the council grants to organizations. I'm here for a bit of a confession. We've noticed a bit of a mistake on our town website in regards to the intake dates that were posted for public viewing. The third intake date on the website was posted as November 15th. Upon this mistake, we did some quick marketing the week before the actual deadline, which was September 15th. However, we had not received any applications by the end of the deadline date on September 15th, which has led us to bring forward council a request to extend the intake to the end of October for 2023 intake only. To be fair to organizations, if they were and hoping to submit an application for the November deadline, which is the incorrect timeline, this just gives them an opportunity to do so. So we present to you a couple of options this evening. One, to extend the deadline as proposed and requested, or the option two, just to accept this report for information, which would maintain the existing deadline. Just a quick synopsis of where council's at in terms of this particular budget. There's approximately 36,800 remaining of the $50,000 budget. After one intake, the first intake timeframe was earlier than the policy was advertised. So it was the first intake for the year, and we supported, council supported 3 applications during that process.
So after, if October 31 becomes this deadline, what is the next deadline?
I will refer to the document as opposed to from the top of my head, and it's March 15th would be the next deadline.
Okay, councilors, any questions? Someone want to move us along on this topic?
Sure.
Councilor Scannahorn?
I'll move that council extend the grants to organizations' third intake deadline to October 31st, 2023.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, then all those in favor of the motion?
I'm in favor.
It is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck with all those applications. Next up, we have our new engineer, Mr. Fisher, who's going to tell us about 101st Street storm sewer repair and erosion mitigation.
Thanks. Can you hear me okay? Good evening, council. Tonight I've just got mostly it's an update for you. We had sent out a public notice and I thought we should also update council on the current situation on 101st Street in case you guys are also getting questions from the public like we are. So in July of this year, we closed a portion of 101st Street down to single lane traffic. This is not the first time it's been closed. It was closed in 2022 for a period of time as well, until we could have a geotechnical consultant kind of look at the area, make sure that the erosion that was visible wasn't causing concern on the roadway. And then we opened it up again. And in July, following some heavy rain, we had an additional area of erosion kind of show up, and administration closed a portion of the roadway as a precaution, just to move traffic loading further away from the top of the embankment until we can assess it further and make a plan to repair it. So while this was going on, we were working with a consultant already to prepare a tender package, which includes kind of a repair of the erosion area and a little bit more scope in order to prevent similar infrastructure from failing in the future. So we can go in and fix it once and hopefully not have to go back for a while. That closed on September 1st, and we didn't get any bids received. Feedback that I've received through our consultant is that our construction timelines were too aggressive and they couldn't meet them. So we're reevaluating that. But in the meantime, the lane's gonna stay closed until we can get in there and do some emergency repairs. We're supposed to be meeting with contractors and our consultants this week to look at the scope of work for sort of a temporary fix until we can come back and do the larger scope of repair that we think needs to happen. The failure itself was due to age-related infrastructure failure. So it's basically a corrugated steel pipe used for storm, like a culvert, road culvert. I believe just the timeline and the age, it corroded. The piping kind of let ground and soil support infiltrate into the pipe, wash out to the area, and then cause failure of the pipe. So the pipe itself is actually broken. And if we don't do something temporary right now, come spring runoff, we might have a bigger issue. That's sort of the big stuff on the briefing note. Any questions?
So basically, we're on wait mode until we can figure out if someone can do some of the work more immediately than not.
I wouldn't say wait mode because we're actively trying to set up a meeting and look at the work with
Yeah.
contractors and come up with a repair plan that they're comfortable executing in the timelines that we.
And with doing it that way, is there any chance that some work will get done but then need to be redone?
Yes, very clearly, I'm thinking we are, as administration, doing a temporary fix right now to prevent things from getting worse. Basically, every time it rains, all of the water that would normally go through the stormwater infrastructure is going over land. And it washes out a little bit more every time it rains. So we're going to go in and do a little bit of repair now and very likely have to come in and do a wider scale repair in the future.
Okay, counselors, any questions? Okay, thank you. Would someone be prepared to move us along this topic?
I'll do that.
Okay, Counselor Good,
I'll move the council accept the briefing note regarding the 101st Street storm and slope repair update for information.
thank you. All those in favor of the motion?
In favor.
It is carried. Thank you. Next up, we have, well, the topic is to reduce, a request to reduce the utility bill for St. Paul's United Church. And who would be speaking to this one? Sam?
Yeah, I am, your worship.
Sam up there now? Yes. Okay, Mr. Mudford?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The item before council's request for a decision to reduce the utility bill for St. Paul's United Church. Bit of background on this: in July of 2023, administration received a letter from St. Paul's requesting a reduction to their recent utility bill. They'd experienced extraordinarily high utility bill as a result of a broken water tank. So the additional cost incurred was $2,131 above what their normal consumption would be. Administration offered to waive the interest costs associated with this bill and allow time to pay, but advised that we didn't have the authority to write off the balance, and as such, requests would need to be directed to town council. We also advised that any request put before council to reduce or write off the utility bill would be followed by a recommendation by administration to decline the request because any other action could set a potentially untenable precedent. Representatives from their group presented to council on September 5th requesting a reduction of their bill. And they proposed that council write off the incremental costs associated with the water consumed. And as part of the presentation, the church identified various other services and events that are hosted by the church. Administration suggests that it may be worthwhile for the church to consider whether those groups are eligible to apply for funding through the town through applicable programs such as the Grants to Organizations program. There's two options before council. Option one is council direct administration to reduce the church's bill. The advantages of this is it supports the local not-for-profit community group that is struggling financially. The disadvantage to this is potentially sets an untenable precedent and opens the town up for receiving additional requests of this nature in the future. And there would be a slight operational cost associated with this. Option two is that council decline the church's request to reduce the utility bill. Advantages of this aligns with best practice and doesn't set unmanageable precedent for the future. Disadvantages, of course, it doesn't support the church's request. Recommendation from administrations that council defeats a motion, that the motion being council direct administration to credit the church's utility consumption by 382 meters cubed, providing financial relief in the amount of $2,131.56. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Mugford? Yes,
Madam Mayor, we just wanted to, for clarity, just state again that administration's recommendation is that the motion being put on the table is defeated.
okay, we've got a suggested motion in front of us, which is written in the positive, just because it makes it easier to know what we decided if it's written in the positive, right? Okay, would someone be prepared to put forth a motion, either the suggested one or something?
Yes,
Okay, so just to get this going, so I'll move that council direct administration to credit the church's utility consumption by 382 cubic meters, providing financial relief in the amount of $2,131.56.
Thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed to the motion?
Sorry, I meant to say I was in favor.
Okay, so Mr. Boychuk, you voted in favor of the motion?
That is correct.
Okay, the motion is defeated. Thank you. Next topic is also for Mr. Mugford, and it is the appointment of an auditor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at issue is the appointment of the financial auditor for the town of Peace River for the purpose of conducting the town's annual financial statement audit as required by the Municipal Government Act. In accordance with MGA section 281, each council must appoint an auditor for the municipality. And we, just a bit of background on this, the most recent proposal expired in 2021. Because we'd had some significant turnover on our end, we made the decision, rather than going out for proposal in 2022, to retain the previous auditor for that audit, with a commitment to going out to proposal in 2023, which we did. In August of this year, we went out for proposal for a four-year audit service proposal. There were 3 proposals received and reviewed by the town's finance manager and myself. Proposals are scored based on the firm's profile and approach, the audit team experience in municipal audits, and the pricing. A unanimous recommendation was presented to the CAO, recommending the lowest cost proponent, Metrics Group LLP. We checked the references and they were found to be satisfactory. And this was reviewed and approved by CAO Miller. There's 2 options before council. Option 1 is to appoint Metrics Group LLP as the auditor for the town of Peace River for 2023 through 2026 for year-end audit service. Which the advantage of that is it supports, it's appointing the low cost proponent as recommended by administration. There's no disadvantages. We do, the financial implications, we do budget for the audit as part of our operating budget. Option number 2 is to decline the appointment of Metrics Group as the auditor, and see no advantages to that. The disadvantages are potentially higher incurred audit fees or lower quality audit service. And it may delay the commencement of the 2023 audit, which may potentially require an extension from municipal affairs. So the recommendation this evening is that council appoint Metrics Group as the auditor for the town of Peace River for 2023 through 2026 year ends. Thank you.
Do you have any questions, councilors? Councilor Good?
Not really a question, just one comment. I think it's a good idea every once in a while to change up and get new eyes on something, so I'm fine with this.
Thank you. And is it common to do a 4-year term?
Madam Mayor, we elected for a 4-year, and there's 2 additional years as part of the proposal. So it's 4 + 2. I've seen varying durations. I've seen 3 + 2s. I've seen 5 years. So yeah, it's right in the ballpark.
And is the proposal, and I don't know, tell me if I'm digging into details here. It's my understanding that with our internal accounting program that steps are being taken so that when we have the audit, they can be presented with a I don't know, a balance sheet that they don't have to prepare, that the town prepares. Is that part of this? So the town would be giving them more information than we've been able to give in the past? Or am I misunderstanding?
So as part of the proposal, the audit firm will still be preparing the financial statements, if that was your question.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what our internal accounting system was able to do, that people were being updated, trained, so it would happen. I can withdraw my question because I'm not too clear on it, other than there was something that we were going to be able to present to the auditors because of this training and upgrading, I guess, that we had not previously been able to provide to them. But anyways, I'll forget the question. And any other questions? Would someone like to present a motion? How about Councillor Boychuk? Would you like to present a motion on this?
Sure. Let me see here. So I'd like to move that council appoint Metrics Group LLP as auditor for the town of Peace River for 2023 through 2026 year end.
Thank you. Any further questions? All those in favor of the motion?
In favor.
Thank you. It is carried. And thank you, Mr. Redford. And you're still up with AMSC Power Plus program update.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is an update from an agreement that council made motion on last year. So May 25, 2022, council made a motion to enter into a 10-year contract with Alberta Municipal Services Corp for the provision of electricity for the years 2024 through 2034. This agreement was signed by administration in July of that year. AMSC representatives undertook finalizing the bulk energy pricing for the duration of the agreement, and subsequently they corresponded with us in September of this year with an amendment to the agreement, providing their bulk pricing rates and reducing the duration of the term from 10 years to 6 years. So the electricity maximum price, basically the price that we'd be paying, is 6.95 cents per kilowatt hour. Justification for reducing the term that they provided to me was it was primarily driven by uncertainty regarding carbon taxes. So once they went out beyond 2030, the overall average price of the agreement was going to go up significantly because they couldn't, there's a lot of uncertainty around what that will look like. So in order to provide us the best possible rate, they reduced the term. So by entering into this agreement, the town has locked in a rate which is currently significantly below market rates. So in the event that the town does not fully utilize our committed volume, the residual amount will be sold back to the market at market rates. So in instances where market rates exceed the electricity maximum price, the town will receive a credit on its account. In the unlikely event that during duration of the agreement, the town's consumptions exceed the allotted volume, then we'd be forced to buy at market rate. So long and the short of it is, if we are able to reduce our overall consumption during the term of this agreement, we'll be selling that difference back to the market at market prices at the time. That concludes my briefing note. Thank you.
So the new term would go to, if I read correctly, December 31, 2029. That's not now.
It's a 6-year agreement.
Yes.
Yeah, it brings us up to the end of 2029.
That's correct, okay. Okay, any further questions, councillors? Okay, so
I have one. There's no way we can hold them to the 10, you know, an agreement's an agreement, you know, kind of thing, or?
I didn't delve too deeply into that. When they advised that the pricing was going to be significantly higher, I didn't inquire as to what that would look like. It was, you know, I didn't investigate whether or not we can hold them to that commitment, because again, the justification they provided seemed valid.
any other comments, questions? Would someone care to put forth a motion on this matter?
Yeah, I'll move the council accept the briefing note regarding the AMSC Power Plus agreement update for information.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion?
In favor.
It is carried. Thank you. And Mr. Mugford carries on now with ATCO Gas franchise fee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a few more. So this is a request for decision from council, seeking some guidance on whether or not council would like to make any modifications to the franchise rate for our gas agreement with ATCO. So in 2022 and 2023, the rate used was 32%. This is only slightly less than the maximum allowed under the Alberta Utilities Commission, which is the maximum is 35%. In 2022, the delivery tariff revenue in Peace River was $2,590,561. So the forecasted delivery tariff revenue for 2024 is $2,384,989. So therefore, based on the current franchise percentage, the estimated franchise revenue for 2024 would be $763,196. So basically, if we don't make any modifications to the rates, we're expecting to receive a slight reduction in our revenue. So there's 3 options available for council. Option 1 would be to increase the gas franchise fee tariff to a percentage to be determined by council. You know, that would provide us with additional revenue. The disadvantage is there would be an additional cost for those utility customers. Just to put, you know, percentages and dollars to this, a 1% increase in the franchise fee results in approximately $24,000 in increased revenue for the town. Option number 2 would be to reduce the prevailing gas franchise fee from 32% to a different percent. You know, obviously it would result in lower revenue for us and lower costs borne by the consumers. And option number 3 is to maintain the status quo and retain the prevailing gas franchise fee tariff of 32%. So there will be no additional costs to residents and businesses. They're used to paying that 32%. But there'll be no growth in revenue based on forecast. We'll actually have a slight reduction in our overall revenue for this line item. With that said, the recommendation from council, or from administration rather, is that council retain the ATCO gas franchise fee at the current level of 32%. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Mugford? Okay, would someone be prepared to move forth with the motion then? Thank you, Councilor Chapman.
I move that council retain the ATCO gas franchise fee at the current level of 32% for 2024.
Thank you. Any further questions? All those in favor of the motion?
In favor.
It is carried. Thank you. Mr. Mugford no doubt has another one, the ATCO electric franchise fee.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, this matter relates to the franchise fee applied to the electrical bill, so that appears as a rider or a line item on their on customers' utility bills. The town has increased this fee in the recent past, increasing it from 8% in 2018 up to 11.5% in 2012. This rate was held in 2023. Revenue is calculated as a percentage of the distribution revenue for properties within the town. Per the franchise agreements, the maximum allowable rate is 20%. So I'd updated this chart from last year with the current rates of some comparable municipalities based on population size and in the surrounding area, just so that council has kind of the range and the spectrum of rates. Based on the prevailing franchise fee, the town anticipates receiving approximately $1,033,000 in electric franchise fee revenue, which is an increase from 2023's estimated revenue of $1,004,000, but a decrease from 2022's actual revenue of $1,039,000. This amount is in addition to the property taxes paid by ATCO. And again, to put percentages to dollars here, a 5% increase, a 0.5% increase rather, in the franchise fee would result in an additional $45,000 in revenue for the town. So increases, important consideration for council, increases in this rate shifts the cost of providing municipal services from property owners who pay taxes to consumers of electricity. So this group includes tenants who pay their own utilities, along with entities which operate out of the property, basically entities that are exempted from property taxes, they still pay power bills. So it's a way to collect some revenue from those entities. Again, there's three options before council. They can increase the electric franchise fee rider to a percentage to be determined. Again, the advantages are additional revenue from the town, and it picks up a wider or different subset of users. Disadvantage is, of course, it's a higher utility cost. The opposite, option two, would be to reduce the rate from 11.5% to something lower, which again, it means that the town will need to generate revenue in some other way or reduce expenses to balance our budget. But that would result in savings for users of power in the town. And option three would be to maintain the status quo. The recommendation from administration on this is to slightly increase the franchise fee revenue percentage from 11.5% to 12.5%. This would generate approximately $90,000 in additional revenue for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Mugford? Councillor Scammell?
So if I'm just doing some math here on this, the average home, say, that would spend $250 a month on electricity, an increase of 1% would be $250 a month. Kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the thrust of it. Yeah.
If I could, it would be far less than that, because $250, it's only the percentage on the delivery charge.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
Any other questions? Okay, would someone like to propose a motion on this topic?
Okay, I'll move that council increase the ATCO electric franchise fee percentage from 11.5% to 12.5% for 2024.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion?
In favor.
It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mugford. And continuing on with a discussion about a ATCO LED conversion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is a request for decision from council regarding the ATCO LED light conversion for our municipal streetlights. Bit of background on this. Earlier this year, representatives from ATCO, which is the provider for electrical services for town streetlights, presented a proposal to council to transition the town from high-pressure sodium lights to light-emitting diode or LED streetlights. In general, LED streetlights use about 60% less power than HPS lights. ATCO's current practice is to replace HPS bulbs with LED bulbs as replacement is needed. However, the proposal entails converting all bulbs to LED immediately. So under the terms of the proposed agreement, ATCO would incur the cost of replacing the existing bulbs, resulting in a direct benefit to the town because the LEDs reduce consumption. The town would then pay an LED conversion multiplier, so it's the acronym's LCM, which increases each unit charge. So you're using a lot less, but you're paying more per unit because of this multiplier. The LCM rate is approved by the Alberta Utilities Commission, which at the time of ATCO's presentation was 8.42%. For each of the town's 100 watt HPS bulbs, ATCO anticipates an average savings of $28.34 per year once converted. The net impact of this is forecasted to be approximately $25,000 a year in savings. There's no additional capital costs to the town and no increase in monthly operating costs. Town's currently in the invested streetlight program versus non-invested, and therefore there's no rate adjustment that would result from the conversion other than that LCM multiplier. ATCO will realize some operational savings resulting from this conversion as LED lights are more reliable and require less service from their staff. High reliability means less outages, improving public safety, and less frequent interruptions from residents. And previously, when this proposal was brought to council in prior years, the financial costs at the time exceeded the benefits because at that point there was a higher LCM rate. So back then the LCM rate I think was over 10%. So since that LCM rate has been reduced over the years, it's anticipated that this conversion would now result in, it's a very modest savings, but it's still a savings for the town. The Alberta Utilities Commission, now they haven't raised that the LCM. Basically, but if we don't make this conversion, it does present the town with a bit of risk. So, with the rate being variable, in theory, it could increase over time. So if that LCM rate goes up, we'll be paying a bit more for power. However, the LCM has been trending lower over the years, and ATCO anticipates that trend will continue. There's additionally a risk if the town doesn't accept this proposal, which is that the Utilities Commission could, in the future, roll that LCM multiplier or the LCM into the overall rate pool, which if we're still consuming at a higher volume, that could have a significant increase in our costs. So that is a risk for us. And in discussion with our ATCO representative, Carol Broderick, Peace River is one of two remaining communities in the region which has not completed the conversion. The other being a village which they have lighting that isn't fully invested, so they're looking at a much higher cost if they make that conversion. Some of the communities that have completed the conversion include Fairview, High Level, Lions Creek, Cold Lake, Sexsmith, etc. Given that most of the communities in the region have completed the conversion, I've been advised that the program will likely be concluding soon. ATCO advised that should the town proceed with the conversion process, it will be completed in a manner which minimizes the impact on residents. And in reference to my earlier briefing note, an additional benefit which may also be realized because of this change is if the town's ability to sell our additional capacity back to the market. So the town's negotiated rate on power through the Power Plus program allows for unused allocations to be disposed of at market rates, which could result in positive variances so long as the market rate exceeds the negotiated bulk rate. So two options before council this evening. Option one is to accept ATCO's proposal and convert all the street lighting to LED. Advantages being lower energy usage, lower street light costs, a consistent street light bulb type, and just generally more reliable bulbs. Disadvantages being potential volatility in that LCM rate, and financial implications are an anticipated cost savings of approximately $25,000. Option two is to reject the proposal there's a few and continue with the current process. So there'd be higher costs, inconsistent streetlight types, higher electric consumption, less reliability, lower public safety, and anticipated higher operating costs. So with all that said, the recommendation from council is to approve ATCO's streetlight LED conversion option proposal and convert all eligible streetlights to LED bulbs. Thank you.
You said eligible streetlights, so some of them aren't eligible?
Some of them have already been converted. So the
Okay.
process has been to convert as the old bulbs burn out.
Hey, councilors, any questions?
Yeah, I'll put forth a motion and then that might help direct some questions. Also, this saves me shooting up the one mismatched street light in front of my house, so ATCO will come change it. They'll just do it anyways now, so this is a great idea. So I'll move the council authorize administration to enter into an agreement with ATCO for participation in the ATCO streetlight LED conversion option program to convert all eligible streetlights to LED bulbs.
Thank you. So a question or two. Say there's an old brown pole that's leaning someplace that has the old type of lights on it. When they convert it to the LED, do they replace the pole so that it might last another few years as well? Or is that somebody else's responsibility?
I'd need to undertake to get a response to that, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. And also, should we be in a situation where we're selling back power into the grid, do we at that point pay the, I don't know, transportation costs for that?
No, that's a service that's provided as part of our agreement with AMSC.
Great. Okay, thank you. Other questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Does everybody understand the motion, remember it? Okay, then let's vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion as stated?
I'm in favor.
It is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Buckford, for
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
all your briefing notes. Okay, next up, we have reports, none. Council communication package. Was there any topic or any item that somebody wanted to bring forward there? Okay, if not at this time, would someone please move that council accept information item 10.1 for information? Councillor Good so moves. All those in favor?
In favor.
It is carried. Do we have any notices of motion? None? Great. Comments from the public? Okay, what would be the key communication items we would like to put forth from this meeting?
We're getting our LED exchange lights.
Any others? The extension, how about the extension of the date on, or the change of date on the grants to groups program? Any other topics come to mind at the moment?
I think it's worth mentioning the state of our hospital and its staffing issues.
Okay, staffing. HS report. Others? Okay, somebody I think time goes on. Okay, next up is our closed session. Do you want to take a 5-minute break and come back to closed? Okay, so let's come back to closed at 6:20 and someone will move us in at that point. Still meeting.
Yeah, I'm just gonna end, yeah, I'm just gonna end the live stream. We won't have any reason to go back in.